Hey explorers, imagine a ship lost at sea, drifting silently, abandoned, with no crew in sight. This is the Mary Celeste, a mystery that has baffled the world for over a century. What really happened on board? Let's find out. It all began on December 4, 1872, when a ship was discovered drifting alone in the vast Atlantic Ocean. It was the brigantine Mary Celeste, sailing from New York to Genoa, laden with a cargo of alcohol. But there was no sign of her crew. Every single man had vanished, and no trace of them has ever been found. This is the stuff of nightmares and the beginning of one of the greatest maritime mysteries of all time. Launched in 1861, the Mary Celeste was a three-masted brigantine schooner owned by a Boston-based shipping company. At just under 290 feet, she was considered a medium-sized merchant vessel built for speed and efficiency. Her final voyage began on November 7, 1872, when she set sail from New York Harbor, bound for Genoa, Italy, with a cargo of 1,700 bottles of alcohol. Of the 8 crew members on board, 5 were seasoned sailors and 3 were greenhorns looking for work. Among them was Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife and 7-year-old daughter, who were returning to Italy after a holiday in the United States. They had every reason to be cheerful. The weather was good, the cargo was valuable, and the journey would be short. But not everything was as it seemed, because before they knew it, the Mary Celeste encountered a storm that tore at the ship's sails and tossed the vessel like a toy in the waves. Yet the crew battled on, riding out the tempest until it passed. And soon enough, the skies cleared, the waves calmed, and the sun shone down on a sparkling sea. Then on December, the ship was discovered by another vessel named Dei Gratia sailing nearby. At first, those on board the Dei Gratia assumed that the Mary Celeste was simply becalmed, which happens when wind speeds drop below a certain threshold and a ship becomes stuck with little or no movement. But as they drew closer, they realized something was wrong. There was no sign of life anywhere on board. The ship was completely deserted. As the Dei Gratia approached, the captain hailed the Mary Celeste and demanded to know what was going on. But there was still no reply. Nobody answered his calls. It was as though the entire crew had simply disappeared. With no other choice, the captain of the Dei Gratia boarded the Mary Celeste to see if he could find anyone. He and his crew began to search the deserted vessel, calling out for anyone who might have been hiding. But the only response was an eerie silence. What they found next was even stranger. The ship was in perfect condition and showed no signs of distress. Everything was exactly where it should be, as if the crew had just stepped off the ship for a routine task and would be back at any moment. Personal belongings lay around the ship, including clothes, books, and food, indicating that the crew had not abandoned the vessel in a panic. No sign of a struggle or foul play was evident. There was nothing out of place. And yet the entire crew, including Captain Briggs and his family, were gone without a trace. Even more puzzling was the ship's log. It had been filled up to the morning of December, making regular entries right up until the last entry stating that all was well aboard the Mary Celeste. So what had happened to the crew? There are several popular theories attempting to explain the bizarre disappearance of the crew, such as a rogue wave or waterspout that struck the ship, killing everyone instantly. However, this theory is unlikely given that the ship would have likely been damaged and the cargo of alcohol would have been spilled. Another theory suggests that the crew mutinied, killing the captain and his wife before abandoning ship with the child. However, this is also unlikely as there is no evidence of a struggle and the daughter would have been left behind. Plus, the men would have likely been caught in the heavy seas, even if they had lifeboats. Still, this hasn't stopped people believing that the alcohol fumes overcame the crew, turning them insane and causing them to jump into the sea. But again, there is no evidence to support this theory. Others believe that the Mary Celeste was the victim of a so-called seaquake, an actual earthquake that occurs beneath the sea. While these can sometimes be quite powerful, there is no evidence that one struck the area at the time. A more paranormal explanation is that the ghost of Captain George Kidder, who perished aboard the ship in 1854, returned to haunt the Mary Celeste, causing the crew to flee in terror. However, there is no evidence to support this claim. In reality, whatever happened to the crew of the Mary Celeste, we may never know. It's a haunting thought that to this day keeps people up at night. What do you think happened to them? Let me know in the comments below. If you love mysterious stories like this, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. That way, You won't miss any of our chilling mysteries from history.